Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayanti Nashtaprayesha Bhadraesha Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 4, Vidura approaches Maitreya, text number 32 onwards. Evam Triloka Guruna Sandishta Shabdayonina Badrikasramam Asadya Harim Ije Samadhina. Shukdev Goswami informed the king that Uddhava, being thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all Vedic knowledge and the spiritual master of the three worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Badrikasrama and engaged himself there in trance to satisfy the Lord. Lord Sri Krishna is factually the spiritual master of the three worlds, and he is the original source of all Vedic knowledge. It's very difficult, however, to understand the personal feature of the Absolute Truth, even from the Vedas. His personal instructions are needed in order to understand the personality of Godhead as the supreme absolute truth. Bhagavad Gita is evidence of such transcendental knowledge in gist. One cannot know the Supreme Lord unless one is graced by the Lord himself. Lord Krishna exhibited his specific mercy towards Arjuna and Uddhava while he was in the material world. So Krishna himself gave knowledge to Arjuna and Uddhava, and then he, through Arjuna and through Uddhava, he distributed the knowledge to others. Somebody can say Arjuna did not preach, but when Krishna was preaching to Arjuna, Vyasdev was listening and he was writing down or he was remembering, and later on Ganesh wrote down all the verses of Bhagavad Gita. And then it was Narad Muni learned from Vyas and it went on further. Undoubtedly, Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to encourage Arjuna to fight. And yet, to complete the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord instructed Uddhava. The Lord wanted Uddhava to fulfill his mission and disseminate knowledge which he had not spoken even in Bhagavad Gita. Persons who are attached to the words of the Vedas may also know from this verse that the Lord is a source of all Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge it's not like some people, obviously, there are some people who are atheists and who have no concept of Vedic knowledge or who just want to question everything. They don't question the things or the points that we see normally, which are wrong in the material world. They won't question that. No way. But when it comes to Vedas, when it comes to scriptures, they are ready to question each and every word of it. So for Vedas, they always say, oh, Vedas were written by some sages. They just wanted society to run properly. That's why they wrote down Vedas. No, Vedic knowledge comes from the Lord himself. Vedas are there from the very beginning of creation. Nobody sat down and wrote down Vedas. It's not like Sidney Sheldon novel, you sit down and write it down. But those who are just so foolish, so rascals, they just cannot understand what is Vedas, what are Vedas. And then they even dare to comment about the Vedas. Even in Gita, but Krishna himself says, Vedeshta sarver aham he vedyo. Vedanta krita ved evacha aham. I am the compiler of Vedas. He clearly says, I am the source of Vedas. One who is unable to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by going through the pages of the Vedas may take shelter of one of the Lord's devotees, such as Uddhava, in order to advance further in the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of God. But those who don't have even a little faith in the Vedas, they will not come to the level of sadhu sangha. They'll just sit on the side and make fun of everything without understanding the real meaning of Vedas. The Brahma Samhita says that it's very difficult to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Vedas, but he is easily understood from a pure devotee like Uddhava. Taking mercy on the great sages who lived at Badrikasrama, the Lord authorized Uddhava to speak on his behalf. Unless one has such authorization, one cannot understand or preach the devotion service of the Lord. Very nice. Prabhupada said, even Uddhav, he had all the knowledge, but till he got the permission or authorization from the Lord, he did not preach. And now he was authorized, now he was asked to go and preach, to give the message to the sages living at Badrikasrama and to Vidurji also. Similar incident happened when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. Although Nityananda Prabhu appeared 13 years before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. And when Nityananda Prabhu was about 12 or 13 years old, he left the house with the sannyasi on the pretext of going to South India to serve the sannyasi. But then Nityananda Prabhu, he went all over India. He went to all the dhams, just like Balramji went. And then covering, he came to Vrindavan. So he was staying in Vrindavan till he got the message that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has started the Sankirtan movement. So Mahaprabhu had gone to Gaya and then got initiated by Ishwar Pavi. From Gaya he came back and he started the Sankirtan movement at the house of Srivas Thakur. So then Nityananda Prabhu, he came back. He came to Navadvip. So even when he came to Navadvip, he just wanted to test Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he hid himself at the house of Nandanacharya. But Mahaprabhu, being Mahaprabhu, he found him. And then he invited him, or he added him in his Sankirtan party. So later on, even after the Sankirtan was happening, then some time later, Mahaprabhu asked Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur to go out and preach. That is when Nityananda Prabhu, although he is Balramji himself, Balramji is Adi Guru, supreme spiritual master of everybody. He himself did not start preaching till he got the permission from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wanted to establish this fact that until we have the authorization or permission from our Guru, even though we preach, it will not take effect. So Nityananda Prabhu also did not start with. So here Uddhavji also. So since he got authorized by the Lord, then he went to Badrikasrama to preach. While present on this earth, the Lord executed many uncommon activities, even traveling in space to bring down the Parijat from heaven, recovering the son of his teacher, Sandipani Muni, from the regions of death. Uddhava was certainly informed of the conditions of life on other planets, and all the sages were anxious to know of them, just as we are anxious to know about the planets in space. Uddhava was particularly deputed to carry a message to Badrikasrama, not only to the sages of that place of pilgrimage, but also to the Nar-Narayan deities. Such a message must have been more confidential than the knowledge described in the pages of the Vedas. So Uddhava was given a message to give to the deities of Nar-Narayan and Badrikasrama. The Lord is undoubtedly the source of all knowledge, and the messages dispatched through Uddhava to Narayan and other sages were also part of the Vedic knowledge. But they were more confidential and could be sent or understood only through such a pure devotee as Uddhava. Since such confidential knowledge was known only to the Lord and Uddhava, it is said that Uddhava was as good as the Lord himself. Every living entity can, like Uddhava, also become a confidential messenger on the same level as the Lord, provided he becomes confidential himself by dint of loving devotional service. So, more devotional service we perform, more surrendered we are, more preaching or more effective our preaching would be, and more services will be given. Confidential services or services which are very dear to the Lord, to such a devotee, to such a person, to carry them out further. Just like we were discussing Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission the other day. And Prabhupada surrenders, look at his surrender and look at his willing to serve Krishna. That Krishna chose him to be the person who takes a movement out of India to the West and through West to all over the world. He was a chosen one. Why nobody before him? So many devotees before him, but Prabhupada's surrender was ultimate. His willingness to take risk was ultimate. His willingness to serve his Guru was ultimate. That's why he was chosen. Not only chosen, he was given all the success. But the success didn't come before the hardships also. The hardships were there for him to take more shelter of Krishna and for him to show to the world that even in the middle of all the hardships, the devotee never leaves the lotus feet, the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Never has any doubts about the mercy of Krishna. If Prabhupada had just come to the West with lots of big sponsorships from India for building the temples, and if he had just stayed in 5-star hotels and built some temples, who would have remembered him? Who would have glorified him? But he came to the West with only 40 rupees, which was equivalent to $8 at that time. And he stayed in the lowest of the lowest places in New York. And in the beginning, he got the help from drug addicts and different kinds of low class people. Of course, we should not say low class because they all helped Prabhupada, so they are very, very much, we should be respecting them. But from social point of view, they were not from very high class. And that's how Prabhupada started. At the age of 70, after having 2 heart attacks on the way to America, even here he had a paralysis attack and a heart attack, and he had to go back to India. He said, I want to go back to the warm atmosphere of India, where he recovered miraculously. And then he came back in 6 months. And then he carried on. So this is what the devotees, and this is what devotees are very dear to Krishna. This is why the devotees are very dear to Krishna. Because even in the midst of greatest calamity, they don't leave Krishna's lotus feet. They don't give up their services. They don't give up chanting. That's why they're very close. They're very confidential. One cannot understand Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam without the help of such confidential devotees of the Lord. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that confidential message must have consumed the mystery of his departure and the annihilation of his dynasty. after the end of his appearance in the mundane world for 100 years. Everyone must have been very anxious to know about the mystery of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. And that message must have been explained by the Lord to Uddhava and dispatched to Badrikasrama for the information of Nar Narayan and other pure devotees of the Lord, just like Uddhavji told Vidura also what happened. Prabhakshetra. Text 33. Vidura api Uddhava Shrutva Krishnasya Parmatmana Kridyo Pata Dehasya Karmani Shlaghitani Cha. Vidura also heard from Uddhava about the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna, the Super Soul, in the mortal world, which is a subject matter sought after with great perseverance by the great sages. The subject matter of the appearance and disappearance of the Super Soul, Lord Shri Krishna, is a mystery even for the great sages, because they don't understand it properly. They don't understand Krishna's appearance and all his pastimes. So how can they understand his disappearance pastime? The word Paramatmana is significant in this verse. An ordinary living being is generally called the Atma. But Lord Krishna is never an ordinary living being because he is Paramatma, the Super Soul. Yet his appearance as one of the human beings and his disappearance again from the mortal world are subject matters for the research workers who execute research work with great perseverance. Such subject matters are certainly of increasing interest because the researchers have to search out the transcendental abode of the Lord, which he enters after finishing his pastimes in the mortal world. So they have to search out the transcendental abode, because otherwise, what would they know about disappearance pastime of the Lord? So to know the spiritual world, they have to understand the mystery of appearance, pastimes of Krishna himself. But even the great sages have no information that beyond the material sky is a spiritual sky where Shri Krishna eternally resides with his associates, although at the same time he exhibits his pastimes in the mortal world in all the universes, one after another. So that's another great mystery about Krishna's pastimes. He's there, Golok Ev Nivasati Akhilatma Bhuto. He's there in the Golok Vrindavan planet, and at the same time he's in all the universes in the material world, performing his pastimes. Very hard to understand. This fact is confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Golok Ev Nivasati Akhilatma Bhuto. The Lord, by his inconceivable potency, resides in his eternal abode, Goloka. Yet at the same time, as a super soul, he is present everywhere, in both the spiritual and material skies, by his multi-varieties of manifestation. Therefore, his appearance and disappearance are simultaneously going on, and no one can say definitely which of them is the beginning and which is the end. So another mystery. Just like if sun is setting in America right now, or it has already set, and it is showing up in India, and few hours later it will set in India and show up in America. So which place did it set at the first time, and which place it arises from at the first time? Hard to say. It goes on in a cycle. So similarly, Krishna's appearance and disappearance. Okay, in this particular universe, we can say, okay, he appeared, then 125 years later he disappeared. But these pastimes are going on all over the universes, different universes at the same time. So which one happens first? We don't know. Where it happens first? We don't know. His eternal pastimes have no beginning or end, and one has to learn of them from the pure devotees only and not waste valuable time in so-called research work. So research work is Anuman Prama. we speculate. And then there is pratyaksh praman, what we see by our senses, what we perceive of by our senses. Even that is wrong. So only thing is one has to believe in, and one has to rely upon is the Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman means we hear it and we learn it from bona fide authorities. And then we understand. In fact, if we look at our technological sciences, technological knowledge, and other knowledges also these days, basically it's all Shabda Praman. It's we hear from the teacher in the college, and we believe it. Teacher in the school, and we believe it. That's it. We don't question them. We think they have done research work, but they also learned it from their teachers. And what research work we can do with our imperfect senses anyway? The research work that we do today is valid, and tomorrow it becomes same thing becomes invalid because somebody else has done better research and with better conclusions. So then our whole philosophy becomes invalid. Just like when we were little, we used to study in classes that there are 9 planets. Of course, there are millions and billions of planets, but we only heard about 9. And Pluto was the last planet. And lately I heard now that there is no Pluto, only 8 planets are there. I don't know what happened to Pluto. Where did it go? So many years ago it was there. Now where did it go? No idea. So this is modern day science. Text 34. Dehanyasam cha tasyavam dhiranam dhairivardhanam anyesham dushkartaram pashunam vincha vinava atmanam. The Lord's glorious acts and his acceptance of various transcendental forms for the performance of extraordinary pastimes in the mortal world are very difficult for anyone other than his devotees to understand, and for the beasts they are simply a mental disturbance. So only his devotees can understand his pastimes. The transcendental forms and pastimes of the Lord, as described in Bhagavad Gita, are difficult subject matters for those who are not devotees to understand. The Lord never reveals himself to persons like the Jnanis and Yogis, and there are others also who, because of their envying the Lord from the bottom of their hearts, are classified amongst the beasts, and for such envious beasts, the subject matter of the Lord's appearance and disappearance is simply a mental disturbance. So such envious beasts, so the one who is envious of the Lord is as good as an animal. And for such an animal with limited knowledge or no knowledge, how can he understand and appreciate Krishna's pastimes? There's no way. So it's a source of mental disturbance, constant mental disturbance for him. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, the miscreants were simply concerned with material enjoyment, who work very hard like beasts of burden, can hardly know the personality of God at any stage due to asuric bhava, or a spirit of revolt against the Supreme Lord. So with that mentality, even Krishna tells Arjuna that I am giving you this knowledge because of 3 reasons. Bhakto me asime sakha cheti, you are my bhakta, you are my sakha. And then later in 9th chapter, Krishna says, because you're not envious of me, I'm giving you this most confidential knowledge. The transcendental bodily expansions manifested by the Lord for his pastimes in the mortal world, and the appearance and disappearance of such transcendental expansions are difficult subject matters, and those who are not devotees are advised not to discuss the Lord's appearance and disappearance, lest they commit further offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord. The more they discuss the transcendental appearance and disappearance of the Lord in the asuric spirit, the more they enter into the darkest regions of hell. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, anyone who is against the transcendental loving service of the Lord is more or less a beastly creature, as confirmed in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is also one of the reasons we are told when we are preaching that do not go reveal the confidential, the internal meanings of the scriptures of Krishna's pastimes to people who are envious of Krishna. Now, how do we find out if somebody's envious or not? So just to be on the safe side, when we preach, we only preach the basics to begin with. Especially when we talk about chanting of Hare Krishna, we only say, oh, it will give you some peace of mind, that you will feel better. We don't go into too much of details and confidential meanings of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, or or like Radha and Krishna dancing on your tongue when you're chanting the holy name. People don't appreciate that. They don't care. Or you will be revealed the internal pastimes of Krishna when you're chanting. They might make fun of Krishna and Radharani. And for doing so, they'll go to hell. So it's better to preach very simple philosophy, very, very simple. And that will tell us if the person is favorable or is envious. If he is favorable, still he is not at the level to understand the whole thing. So we only let him advance gradually while helping at the same time. So that's all preaching is. It's not that difficult. It's just we have to resolve ourselves to do it. So anyway, I'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I think you mentioned about the planet Pluto. It's not considered any more than that, 9 members. So I think it's because of its gravitational force is not there in this planet, which actually helps the planet to move in the orbit. And that's the reason it has not been considered scientifically. I mean, that's what.
But when we used to study, it was there, right?
Yeah, it was there. Yeah.
So that is my question. Now what happened? Oh well.
So actually, probably they themselves originate something. They say, like in 1930s, they said that this is the dwarf planet, the most smallest one, and they come up with this idea. And then sometime back, they said that it's a dwarf planet because it doesn't have any gravitational force of itself. That's why it's not considered. So they are coming with something. Then they are, uh, they rubbish those ideas. Something like Stephen Hawking when he said that there are God particles exist, and if the intensity of those God particles, if it actually increases, then the entire universe will demolish. So even, I mean, Stephen also believed that God particle exists later on, after, you know, during the last stage of his life.
Oh, so this is a modern day science because we are our senses are imperfect. So whatever we do is imperfect. It cannot be perfect. But at the same time, when we are studying Vedas or Bhagavatam, with commentaries from self-realized persons like Srila Prabhupada or other acharyas, knowing that they are self-realized, they are completely perfect people, perfect souls. So anything we read from them will be perfect. It will not have any fallacies. But to keep our jobs, to keep our material life going, we have to have we have to agree with everybody else in the in the area. So that's a different story. So anyway, any other question or comment? Okay, I guess we can stop here. Yeah, yeah. Wonderful day. Hare Krishna.